What's up, everybody? Thanks for being with us here on the Slate for what is obviously, if you look at the three of us, a casual Friday. I'm Adam Kaufman, Matt LaMarcus, Steve Buchanan. We are just rapidly approaching Halloween. We didn't come dressed up because I guess we're just poor sports, but we are happy to be here with you talking actual sports. Baseball on the horizon tonight. World Series continues, Game 3 in Atlanta, and of course a lot of NFL to both relive from last night, a compelling game for reasons that we did not expect, and then of course a big slate coming up on Sunday. Fellas, what's going on? Good. Good. Glad we did that. All right.
I was waiting for Bukes to go first because I always defer to Steve Buchanan, but I actually did dress up for Halloween.
As
John Lennon. John Lennon.
Oh man, look at that.
It's easy if you imagine.
I don't think I ever saw John Lennon wearing a backwards Mets cap. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just means the pictures aren't.
I guess you'll just have to use your imagination.
Oh, this is a start. Thanks everyone for being with us. If you have any questions, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, whatever it is, get them out there. And man, yeah, throw out the rundown. That's what our crew says. Eamon, our producer, Daniel, our technical director, and they are just hoping that we make it through this thing till about 6 o'clock without messing anything up too much. Packers guys beat the Cardinals last night, which, I don't think, obviously most people didn't see it coming. I don't think it's the biggest shock in the world. You had a Green Bay team that had won 6 in a row, but was severely undermanned. No Devontae Adams, as we know. No Alan Lazard, no MVS. Randall Cobb goes out. We joked about it yesterday. It was our bold prediction at the end of the show. Randall Cobb scores a couple of touchdowns. His binky there, Aaron Rodgers. So, nice win. Arizona, its first loss of the year. So both these teams sitting at 7-1. Any big takeaways, LaMarca, from that game last night and what you saw?
The takeaway for me is don't overreact to wide receiver injuries. Devontae Adams is arguably the most important receiver in the league. And I would say he's worth about 1.5, maybe 2 points on the spread. So I thought Green Bay was the correct side last night. I bet them early in the week, so I had them at a bad number. Didn't end up mattering. Green Bay covered. I feel like this Green Bay squad has kind of been disrespected all year. I don't know why they're not considered to be in the same class as a team like Arizona or a team like the Rams, like whoever you want to put in that next tier behind Tampa Bay. I think the Packers are squarely in that. They had a terrible week 1 showing. It happens, right? They had a weird off season with all the Rodgers stuff, but since then it's just been all business, pedal to the metal. And I don't think we'll have a whole lot of opportunities to buy low on them much more.
Look, I think they're in that class. I'm surprised that most people don't feel that way. I mean, they were in the NFC title game last year.
If you looked at the futures values on those teams, to win the Super Bowl, to win the NFC, they were pretty squarely behind the Rams and the Cardinals. And I thought that they were equivalent to.
So Bukes, looking at last night's game then, and as we know, it's Kyler Murray was terrible. It was just a bad night for him, and you could point some of that to DeAndre Hopkins leaving that game early. But again, nobody's crying for the Cardinals when Aaron Rodgers had what he had to work with, obviously. Robert Tonyan goes down as well, and down for the season at that with an ACL injury. So another problem there for Green Bay as it works to get healthier, dealing with its COVID issues and other injury issues around that. But what about for Arizona? Taking this first loss primetime Thursday night, still 7-1, still standing tall, still a Super Bowl contender, all of that. But was there anything from that game that leads you to say maybe the Cardinals aren't quite what we thought they were?
No, I still think they are too. I mean, quite frankly, we could be talking about something completely different if Kyler Murray didn't throw that interception on the last play of the game. They could have easily won that game, and you would have said business as usual for the Cardinals. The Packers played a lot harder game than we expected, but as we, in the books reacted, the Cardinals win that game. So it's not, you can't really say that the Cardinals had a quote unquote bad game when they were really one throw away from being the winners of that game. So they could have easily been 8-0 to start the season, and the Packers could have been 6-2. So, I don't really think that you saw anything less from the Cardinals. I mean, there's been numerous times this season where you could have said they could have had a loss before tonight. From last night. So I think this is kind of business as usual for the Cardinals, and people I think are reacting the way they are because the Packers were so incredibly shorthanded, but they were still able to pull off the win. But a win is a win at the end of the day. But if you really want to like look into it, they just got by. So I take nothing away from the Cardinals. They didn't look great in that game, but they haven't looked great in a couple of weeks already, and yet they're still 7-1. So I still think that they're on par with where people think they are.
Your very quick thoughts, because it's not relevant to this weekend, it's next weekend, but in terms of just bounce back, or in the case of the Packers continuing momentum, these two teams, they have very different matchups. Green Bay's got Kansas City next, and that one's on the road a week from Sunday. Obviously, Cardinals have the Niners next. So you would think Arizona's going to win that game. I don't know how you guys feel about Green Bay in that one, taking on Kansas City, a Chiefs team that has really underperformed so far this year, LaMarca.
Yeah, I'm fading anything and everything that has to do with Jackson Mahomes at this point.
Yep.
Be it his brother, TikTok, dancing in general. I'm out on dancing just because of Jackson Mahomes. No, the line, I believe you just scrolled to it there, was 2.5. That seems about right. That's actually saying that the Packers are the better team on a neutral field. And I think given everything we've seen so far, that seems about right.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are going to have to score 30 points to win most weeks. And we know that they can do it, but it means that when their offense is hitting skids, they're going to lose quite badly like they did last week versus the Titans. So I obviously have done zero research diving into that game yet. There'll be plenty of time for that next week, but my initial lean is that this line seems pretty fair.
In the chat, our Chat Kings conference from here on YouTube, Lisa Robinson Shadow, AJ Green costing me $6,000 while missing out on playing hero of the game as well. Yeah, that was a tough break. Obviously Bukes laid out what could have been for Arizona. Sorry to hear that, Lisa Robinson Shadow, in terms of the lost potential income right there. So let's go to Sunday, guys. We got about a half hour here. We'll do plenty of football, DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll look at DFS as well if anyone wants to get into that. Again, we'll hit on the World Series Game 3 a little bit later, maybe sprinkle in some basketball thoughts at the end. Whatever you guys want to get into, we're here for you here on a Friday. But as we go to Sunday, again, only a couple of teams this week have buys. So we got 12 games on the main slate, which is always nice to see. Last week was just chaos with all those teams that were off. You had a half dozen teams that were off. So you've got some big spreads, some really big spreads. The Jets at home are the dogs by 11 points against the Bengals. The Bills favored by 14 at home against the visiting Dolphins. The Rams on the road in Houston. This should be a dumpster fire of a game. 16.5-point favorites, Los Angeles. And, those are by far the biggest spreads. Obviously, most others are in that 4.5 and below range. So among these big ones, what are your expectations here, Bukes?
I mean, the one that, I think people keep overlooking is the Bengals minus 11. Like, I feel confident in playing this up to like 13.5 at this point, because not only are the Bengals like been my personal ATM this year, people are just keep sleeping on this team. And I don't understand why. Like, you think after knocking off the Ravens in that game a week ago or so, you'd think that this team would be, people will be backing them more. Now, obviously this number continues to go up, but only 11. Like, I only said, like, it's funny to say only 11, but like, they should be able to cover that, because when they're covering, they're absolutely smashing it against teams against the spread. So minus 11, like, it's an odd number. It's a weird number. Once you get into these double digits, it's like, where do you really go with this? I would have no problem playing this up to all the way up to 13.5. Like, I just think the Bengals are that good. They should have no problem against the Jets. Who the hell are they even running out there at this point? I don't even think they know
Mike White,
at this juncture.
Mike White, the quarterback.
Whoever that is. That's the guy Kenny Ducey was like, oh, you guys are making fun of him. He just threw for a touchdown. If that's where the bar is, and that's what Kenny Ducey feels, and this team absolutely blows. So that's all you need to say about that. But truly, like, the Bengals at minus 11, like, people may look at that and go, oh, that's a pretty big spread. That's too low for me. And, getting into the double digits, that's funny to say, but truly, like, up to 13.5, I'm all Bengals at this point.
LaMarca viewing that the same way with Mike White under center?
I don't have a problem with the Bengals in terms of like the number. I think the number's probably pretty fair. My bigger concern is just the spot, right? Like huge season defining win against the Ravens last week. Now they're starting to get the national attention. They're starting to read the headlines. I worry that this is a little bit of a foot off the gas spot for them. I think that maybe we see their C+ type game. Now, is their C+ game good enough to beat the Jets by more than 11 points? Maybe. I don't know. I would rather go with the Texans if I was to take a team here. Now, I was hoping I'd be getting a Tyrod Taylor appearance this week. Sounds like that's not going to be the case. We're going to get another start from no neck Davis Mills, or all neck Davis Mills. The Rams didn't appear all that interested in covering a big number last week against the Lions. I don't see why they would be like all that much more focused for this matchup versus the Texans. So I think that they can cover. And if I were to play a big favorite here, it'd be the Bills. The Dolphins are just a sinking ship. Their quarterback knows he's on the way out. They have a new quarterback that they may trade for before the trade deadline. They may not, but the one thing that you know is that they don't want you, right? Like, how can you be Tua Tagovailoa and go out there and be 100% focused on beating the Bills? Like, it's just, you're worried about where the hell am I going to be in 3 weeks? So I think the Bills are my favorite of the big favorites. The Texans, my favorite of the underdogs.
Fair enough. We'll take a look around the rest of the slate, obviously. And like I said, most of these are substantially closer than what we were just talking about. You got some higher totals, 51 points, the Titans and the Colts. That, let's see, that appears to be, well, pretty close to the highest one. It's the highest on the main slate. The highest for Sunday in general is obviously the Cowboys and the Vikings. That's 51.5. You got the Bucks and Saints at 50.5. So as we target some of the higher scoring games, because whether you're talking betting or obviously DFS, that's what people care about most: entertainment, points, offense, all that good stuff. Which of these, maybe it's all of them, Bukes, is most likely to hit the over?
That's honestly, I think it might be the Titans and Colts at 51.
Agree.
Yeah, like I mean,
agree.
I'm still struggling to figure out who the Colts are. Like, I don't know. Are they a passing team? Are they a running team? Are they a team? I don't know what they are. I can't figure these guys out. But if there's one thing I do know, is that the Titans are running the ball at one of the highest rates, but they're also passing it a lot too and doing it well with Ryan Tannehill, even with some of his main targets out of the mix. Julio Jones has been officially ruled out of this game, so it's going to leave plenty of targets for A.J. Brown, which is always a good thing. And the Colts, man, I can't figure them out, but they're putting out games every single week, and that's the problem. I have them missing the playoffs, so I'd very much for them like to lose this game. That'd be great for me, but I'm a little concerned on how much the line has moved in favor of the Colts. Like yesterday, I think the Titans were plus 1.5. It's gone up 1.5 points since. Now they're plus 3. Like that concerns me a bit. That's not a small move. That's a big move in a span of 24 hours. So to me, that makes it feel like if that's the case, and if the Titans are going to have to be in a pass heavy script, then I like that. And I like that for the over. So just a couple of notes there, but man, I really wish I had a better read on the Colts because I would feel better about this. But I think as of right now, that's my favorite to go over.
So Lamarca, you agreed. Obviously, that's the one that you think is most likely to go over. But what about the other two that I mentioned? Do you see overs out of who was it? The obviously the Sunday night game, the Cowboys and the Vikings. What's that?
I was just going to answer the question.
Sure, you can do that.
I don't see a particularly strong bet with the over on either of those sides. Like in one of those games, we're probably going to have Cooper Rush playing quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pass on taking an over there. And in the other one, I think the Patriots, let's talk about them for a little bit. Kaufman, I know that they're your team. You love them.
Sure.
You worship the ground that Mac Jones walks.
With all my heart, I'd adopt him if I could.
They might not have to throw the ball this week. They're just going to pound the ball into oblivion against this Chargers front that ranks dead last in rush defense DVOA.
Right.
So they don't have a choice if they fall behind early, though.
You can't fall behind if you score on every possession, Kaufman, just like they did last week.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about two pretty different opponents, but sure.
The Pats are shaping up as a sharp target is what I'm getting to. This line has dropped. They were 5.5-point underdogs early in the week. Now it's down to 4.
Yep.
I initially was like, what is this team seeing? Why do they care so much that the Patriots beat the Jets? Everyone beats the Jets. But I think it's that specific matchup, the Patriots run game versus the Chargers inability to run. And the one thing that the run game does is it slows games down. So I'm expecting the Pats to have long, sustained, successful drives, but those don't typically bode well for an over.
So if we,
this is my favorite under. Both of these teams are horrible at hitting the over. Like both of them are ranked near the bottom of the league at hitting the over. So 49 points, like where is that coming from? Like who's scoring all these points that people think they're going to come close to 50? Like, I don't see that happening at all. So you tell me I can get the under 49 points. Like, yes, I will absolutely take that number for two teams that are ranked near the bottom of the league and hitting the over combined.
which teams, and maybe it's this one, depending on how you feel about, again, that Pats run game versus that Rams run defense, obviously, or Chargers, pardon me. But just looking around the league, I mean, which game should we be on upset alert for here, LaMarca?
This one is one of my upset picks of the week. We have so many other favorites. I'm in the Colts camp. I think the Colts are the better team than the Titans, so I'm expecting them to win at home. I preferred them when you were laying less than a field goal. Now that it's up to a field goal, there's not as much value there, but I expect the Colts to win. I don't really expect any of the double-digit favorites to lose. So I don't see this being a week with like a ton of upsets. I guess maybe outside of the Patriots, give me the Jaguars. The Jaguars. I'm always happy to bet against Geno Smith as a favorite. Always happy to do that.
Feel that same way, Bukes? Do you have somebody else you're looking at?
Lions against.
I was just looking at that one.
Eagles are a disaster. They're an absolute disaster. And like, if it wasn't for Jalen Hurts, this team would have nothing. Like this team is, staying above water just because of Jalen Hurts and nobody else. So
the non-disastrous Lions will expose
right.
them.
But hey, you know what? Like they made that a sweat for me last week against the Rams, and that was the game the
Lions do play very hard for a team that doesn't have a single win.
Right.
Talking about games that could go over, this is a game that could go over right there.
Yeah.
Eagles Lions.
Definitely.
I think that's an underrated fantasy game for the week.
Yeah, I agree. But like, if you're looking like to do something with a couple underdogs, like my two would be the Titans and the Lions. I know that Lamarck is on the Colts side, but like, the way that the lines are constructed here, at least at first, at least for the Titans and Colts, it was almost a coin flip. Now the money's come in on the Colts and people are saying that that's, no longer the case. I still feel like it's a lot closer than that, but the Lions, the way that they played against the Rams, and maybe it was just a Stafford thing, or whatever, but, Campbell's going to go out there and they're going to play for him. Like they showed that last week with all the trickery they were doing, 2 fake punts, the onside kick, like they want to win a game. So if there's a game that they have a legitimate chance of winning, it's this week against the Eagles.
Some of the injury news, by the way, that we should just be kind of keeping an eye on, obviously. You guys already mentioned Julio Jones is not playing this weekend. Austin Eckler's mispracticed the last couple of weeks. Deshaun Jackson's not an injury, but he's looking for his way out of town. He and the Rams apparently have decided that they're going to separate. Just some of the stuff that we're watching for as we get closer to Sunday. A lot's going to happen in the next, 44 hours ballpark until games kick off on 1 o'clock on Sunday. So what are the main injury concerns that you have, Bukes, going into the weekend?
I mean, injury concerns in what sense?
Well, what are you watching for that's going to impact the way either you're making a bet or who you're going to play in DFS, whatever it may be?
I'll figure that out Sunday. For being
fair enough. Lamarck, anything that you're watching for now, or is it all just figure it out Sunday morning?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at this point in the year, like every team has many injuries, so it's hard to put my finger on just one. And if we're talking about a betting perspective, you have to focus on every injury, secondary injuries, offensive line injuries. So I can't say that there's one that I am like particularly focused on. Austin Eckler would be the big one for fantasy purposes. If he's
Sure.
out, then, Josh Kelly probably becomes an appealing option. But from just a betting perspective, all of them. I mean, look at the Patriots. They have what, like 15 questionable players at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
at the moment.
Yeah, it's just pure Belichickian garbage that I have to waste on Sunday dealing with. Like this is the life of an NFL bettor, though.
Any before we go, we can take a look over at daily fantasy in the NFL, the main slate on Sunday here in a moment. But before we do that, obviously we talked a whole lot of over-unders and spreads, and we didn't do as much money line, obviously. But any props, any player props that stand out to you, Lamarca?
I look at that stuff on Sunday morning.
Okay, so that's
apologies.
No apologies necessary. I want the people to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. That's what it's all about. So let's go to DFS then. Take a look at some of the value in particular. I think people care about value more than anything else. We'll get to studs because some people in the chat were asking about which studs to pay up for. But what about the value? And I know much like what we've talked about, as injuries rear their ugly head come Sunday, we will have more value that emerges. But as of what we know right now, what value do you guys like? Bukes, go ahead.
Looking early right now, like looking at some of the guys that are on the cheaper end here, and obviously, got to get out of the 4K range, especially for running backs here. But Gerald Everett, that's somebody I was actually looking at for the Seahawks going against the Jaguars. The Jaguars have actually been one of the worst teams against opposing tight ends so far season. And Everett didn't have a big game last week against the Saints, but a lot different matchup here. He's on the field for almost all the offensive snaps for the Seahawks. And at 3,300, if you want to pay down at tight end, which is obviously something that we like to implement often, I think Everett's definitely a viable option at that position. That's usually pretty gross from top to bottom.
I'm just looking at some of the different options that might exist here, Lamarca, and to go to the quarterback position, he's not cheap. He's not cheap. But is it possible that Jalen Hurts is the best value at the quarterback position this weekend?
I would say yes, that's possible. I think that game goes over. My favorite value play in that game we can talk about in a second, but yeah, Jalen Hurts, it doesn't matter if he plays good, if he plays bad, if he plays mediocre, he's going to score between 22 and 28 DraftKings points. You can basically just write it in. That's what he does. He gets there every single week. It may not always be pretty. Sometimes he may need to run 2 touchdowns in garbage time, but that's what this guy does. He's a fantasy stud quarterback, number 3 in quarterback scoring on a per game basis this season. He's too cheap in a matchup versus the Lions.
So just to put that into perspective, against the Bucs, where he completed 12 passes for 115 yards, he still scored 26 DraftKings fantasy points.
Unreal.
That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. That is like, Sam Darnold over the past few weeks scoring like 3 points. But Hurts does so much on the ground as well that it's okay if he completes just over 100 yards on 12 completions, because he's going to make up for it on the ground. At 7,200, he's still too cheap.
Yeah, 3 touchdown game for him in that one, obviously, with a couple rushing, 1 passing. I don't know. Obviously, is it a game, do you think, Bukes, where you're more inclined, and I don't know what the projected ownership looks like for the weekend. I could look into some of that stuff right now if we want, but are you more inclined to want to pay all the way up? Which, of course, when we're talking about that, we're talking about a Josh Allen and what's likely going to be a very lopsided game, as we talked about before. And he's honestly not projected to have that many more points than Jalen Hurts. They're in that same vicinity, and you got a $9,000 or $900, price difference.
$9,000
price difference between those two. I know, $9K, that would be a thing. Versus, again, a Hurts, or even, if you want to pay, I don't know, if you want to pay up at other positions, you could pay down and get decent value production seemingly from from Mac Jones, if you believe they're going to pass a fair amount in that one. Carson Wentz, you talked about the Colts, obviously. Daniel Jones, if you believe that he's just going to be passing all day against Kansas City. Those are some of the guys that could stand out to you.
I mean, the names you just threw out there were all pretty gross.
They are gross names. Doesn't mean they'll have gross weeks.
Well, like LaMarcus said for the Patriots, I mean, they're probably going to be running the ball a lot now. Okay. So Mac Jones, who doesn't rush the ball really much at all either, is probably not a strong option there. Daniel Jones, not on the slate, so we can't talk about him.
That's
but
true.
like you look at the guys at below here, like Justin Fields at 5K. Like Fields has been absolutely atrocious, aside from that week 6 game against the Packers. I mean, he just looks lost in that Matt Nagy offense. If you even want to call it an offense. I mean, I think I'm being a little too nice there. But really, like, the bottom of the barrel at quarterback for this week is quite gross. I mean, maybe you could make.
I have the answer.
As always. Is it who I have right here?
No, it's not Jared Goff.
Okay, we'll give
last week I told you Tua Tagovailoa was the garbage quarterback you wanted. And what did he do? He went out and he gave us 28.5 beautiful DraftKings points.
He did.
Who's your garbage quarterback to stack up this week? Like a bridge over troubled waters.
$5,400.
Teddy Bridgewater, 5,400 versus the football team. Washington, 29th in defensive pass defense DVOA. And importantly, they are 8th in rush defense DVOA. We call that a pass funnel. The Broncos are going to have to pass the ball this week. And while Bridgewater hasn't been great, he's been kind of hit and miss, inconsistent all year. He does get his favorite target, Jerry Jeudy, back in the lineup this week. So it's tough to pay up for a quarterback. I think that Bridgewater could be the guy. And if you're looking to go with the cheap punt this week.
I did take us in the direction of quarterbacks, and I did so. I think as Lamarca was about to throw out another value that he really liked that wasn't a QB. So I didn't mean to steal your thunder there, Lamarca.
That's fine.
Who was it?
Kenny Gainwell at 5K.
Yeah,
sure.
With no Miles Sanders, you can argue that Gainwell has been better than Sanders this year.
How big a problem is Boston Scott going to be for him, though?
Yeah.
Boston, Massachusetts. I don't fear Boston Scott.
If his first name wasn't Boston, he wouldn't have even brought it up. Let's be fair.
That's pretty much what it boils down to.
If his first name was New Hampshire, he wouldn't even have brought him up.
I don't know. Some New England bias. If it was Delaware, though, if it was Delaware Scott, forget it.
Boston Scott should not be a factor. I mean, let me take it back. He should not be enough of a factor that you wouldn't play Gainwell at 5K. That's where I'll leave that.
Sure. Makes sense. All right. What about studs? Studs that you want to pay up for no matter the position before we make the move to baseball, because we got about 10 minutes left. What studs do you like on the Sunday slate?
I love the, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stacking them up. Super expensive this week, but like Stephon Diggs has just been so good as of late. Aside from that one game against the Chiefs in week 5, but like continuously getting the targets, not scoring, but he's doing enough that he's making up for not scoring. Like, last week, 9 catches, 89 yards. He did get a touchdown in that one. The 2 weeks before that, 7 catches on 11 targets for 114 yards against Houston. That spread is so large at -14. And this kind of reminds me of the Rams game last week, where people might shy away from using these guys because they think they're going to be running the ball. But like last week, a lot of the lineups that cashed at the top of the tournaments and cash games was a mix of Stafford, Kupp, and Henderson. Now Henderson kind of had a dud of a game because the Lions came out so quickly, but like those guys combined, all 3 of them combined for about over 80 DraftKings fantasy points. I like doing something like that again this week. Now, obviously the Bills don't have like that solidified number 1 guy that's going to give you that upside there between Moss and Singletary. But with these big spreads, I like doing that 3-man stack with the top running back, the quarterback, and their top receiver. That could be something you could do this week, but Diggs is definitely up there with Allen for me this week.
Lamarca?
Step 1, play Cooper Cup. Step 2, win money.
I was just going to say, are we looking at a Ram stack this weekend? Not just Cooper Cup, but how popular is the Ram stack going to be in general?
It's
I
super
don't
expensive.
think it'll be all that popular.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Like
Stafford
Cup
at 76 is pricey.
Cooper Cup's in like a danger zone now at 9K. Because like let's be honest, like Robert Woods is still very involved too. And this is the salary where you can't afford Cup to bust at all because he's 9K. Like you legitimately need about 30 DraftKings fantasy points for him to give you that what you need out of him out of a 9K salary. Now he's been doing that, but I can't rely on a guy who's in a fairly even split with his second wide receiver too to rely upon him for that 30 plus DraftKings fantasy points at 9K. Now if he's 7,900, that's a lot more. I can do that. 9K is getting a little too dicey for me now.
There were people who said that about Cooper Cup last week at 8,400. You know what we call them? Losers.
Hey, I used him. He was in my lineups. I used him. I had him.
37 plus points last 2 games. Pretty impressive. Darren Ravel. Bukes, I see you tweet at Darren Ravel all the time. He just posted a better at DK Sportsbook just put down $100,000 on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. Pays out $1.4 million if it happens. What do you guys think of that bet? Must be nice to have $100,000 spare change lying around, obviously, to make a bet like that. But what we've seen from the Cowboys so far, that what was it, a 4-game winning streak, 5-game winning streak going into the bye week, and now they play again at Minnesota Halloween night. Are they for real? Are we believers in the Cowboys, LaMarca?
I like the Cowboys. I don't know if they can win the Super Bowl. I would probably need a little bit more than 14-1 on Dallas to take them to win the Super Bowl, just because I do worry about that defense. But they've lost 1 game this year. It was to the defending champs on opening night, and the Bucs needed a last-minute drive from Tom Brady to get the job done. I think Dallas is really good. This is the best Dallas team that we've seen in a while. Can they win the Super Bowl? The defense might not be good enough. We'll see if DeMarcus Lawrence comes back. That would certainly be a big help for them, but I would probably have them like 4th or 5th in the NFC power ranking. So with that being said, yeah, I guess I don't see them winning it.
Bukes, you a believer?
I mean, I'm definitely not a believer in anything that Darnell says. That's first and foremost. Second,
he's just reporting the news, Bukes.
The guy's an idiot. Second, why wouldn't you place the bet next week when the Cowboys likely lose to the Vikings this week, and now you're getting better odds? So Mr. has all this money to drop, on a Super Bowl bet, is going to get them at a much higher price than he could have got them next week when their odds drop because they lose against the Vikings.
Maybe it's Mattress
Sounds
Mac.
like
maybe he's running another
Mattress
promotion.
Mac just placed a big fat bet, but it wasn't didn't have anything because I saw that floating around on the old Twitter the other day. That didn't have anything to do with the Cowboys though.
No,
there's definitely two people. There's definitely 2 people I don't care about: Darnell Ravel and Mattress Mac. That's I could care less about those.
Sounds like somebody who didn't take advantage of the free mattress promotion.
Yeah, you could have gotten furniture, man. You got burned. I'm a big Mattress Mac fan. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, guys, baseball on the way. Game 3 of the World Series tonight. It's a best of 5 at this point, obviously, and the home field advantage, at least for the time being, belongs to Atlanta at what I just learned today is Truist Park. I didn't know that was the name of that park in Atlanta.
They're one of those teams that changes the park name every year.
Just a fun fact. Truist Park in Atlanta. So the Astros, Braves won big in game 1, Astros won big in game 2. Pitching matchup, Luis Garcia and Ian Anderson is what we're going to see tonight. So what do we expect in here, Bukes?
This is probably the toughest game of the series to figure out because I don't know which Luis Garcia you're going to get in this game. Is he going to be the one that absolutely annihilated the Red Sox in his last start, or is it the guy that we saw all throughout the playoffs before then? I have no idea. That was just such a weird performance by Luis Garcia in that win against the Red Sox because the velocity was way up. And I'm not insinuating a damn thing. So don't even ask the follow-up question, okay? I'm just saying it was just an odd turn of events for Luis Garcia. That's all. So it's hard to really nail down which guy is going to come out here. Now, with that being said, I think you're getting a good line on quite frankly, on both sides, because if it's the Luis Garcia we've seen throughout the playoffs, that's a good number of -120 for the Braves. If that's the Luis Garcia we saw in his last start, getting them at even money, that's a great line for Luis Garcia at even money against the Braves. So this is probably a game I'm just staying away from a betting sense, just because there's too many variables to try to figure out a side on this one. So I hope LaMarca has a better take than me, but that's really, truly, that's my take on this one.
LaMarca,
my bet is
yours.
My bet is take the Astros to win the series. I bet them to win the series before the start of the series.
We know.
And I'm taking him double down now. No Chuck Morton,
good
baby.
about it.
No Chuck Morton.
Yeah,
that's like that's a big deal. How about the fact that he apologized to his teammates for getting a screaming liner off of his leg and then going out and pitching like an additional
still
16
threw another
pitches.
16 pitches, including some at 96 miles an hour.
Sorry, I let you down after taking that missile off my shin. Give me the Astros -145.
Struck out two guys.
No, but not only that, but strikes out one of the hardest guys to strike out in Jose Altuve. He strikes out almost never, and he strikes him out on before he gets pulled. That's just incredible. That's just amazing. One of the
filthiest flipping curveballs I've ever seen too. On that broken leg. I can't. I'm not sure I could stand on a broken leg, let alone be pitching on a major league mound on a broken. I mean, incredible. I mean, obviously that's gamer stuff to the next level. And to come and apologize after, man. But that's going to be a big loss, obviously, for Atlanta. Last couple minutes that we have here, guys. Let's move over to basketball and more of a hot spot for you, obviously, LaMarca. I know somebody asked earlier. Let me see if I can find it here. First time playing Fortnite. Can we get Matt's favorite stud, favorite value, favorite play under 4K? It's like a basketball buy stream trash. Wants just a little bit of everything. What do you think? Favorite stud, favorite value, favorite play under 4K.
So, okay.
I'll chime in too for giggles, but you go first.
My favorite stud tonight is Damien Lillard, down to 9,300. Just an extremely appealing price tag for him. The only thing that has kept him from being great to start the year, well, it's a couple things. One, he hasn't made any shots. We know that that's an outlier, but the Blazers just haven't played any close games. Each of their last 3 games has been 20 points or more, deciding the final scoreline. So I expect Lillard to bounce back to a normal workload. And if that's the case, 9,300 is too cheap. My favorite value.
I'll throw in James Harden. We'll just go 1 for 1. James Harden is my favorite stud. You keep going.
We're down to the last minute warning here. My favorite value is Rashawn Holmes at 5,800.
I was still looking for mine. You were faster that time.
Well, we're down. And favorite under 4K play, Bruce Brown.
Did you say Rashawn Holmes?
Yes.
That's what I was going to give to. All right, let me give you another one. Zubac. I'll give you Zubac for the Clippers as a solid value tonight. And then sub 4K, you said Bruce Brown?
Mm-hmm.
All right, how about Dwight Powell? Give you another center. If you feel like loading up on centers tonight, that can be your sub 4K guy. So there we go. A little basketball fun for us here to close out the show.
The old round ball, Bukes.
That's what they call
the game of kings.
That's right. We'll let Bukes just
we
get
have
out of here and
we have a team. It's named the Kings. Get it?
Baseball at just a couple hours away. Bukes is counting down the moments. Get lost in front of the tube. Thanks everyone for being with us. Eamon, Daniel, making it happen behind the scenes. All of you for watching. All 6 of you. We appreciate you being with us. LaMarca, Bukes, Kaufman, wrapping up your work week. We hope. Slate returns on Monday through Friday. This show just after the 4 o'clock sim, right around 5 Eastern. Of course, the sweat comes your way weekday mornings and on Sundays, which means you should tune in again Sunday to get you ready for a busy, busy day of football. Happy Halloween, guys. We'll see you later.
Be good to each other.